right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Grit Daily Like a Boss podcast. I'm your host, Loralyn Mears, and we've got Erik Huberman here. He is part of the company Hawke Media, calling in from California. And Hawke Media is just one of the many ventures he has. He also has Hawke Ventures, where he invests in early stage companies. And the real specialty that these folks get into is that they can help you with everything from your crowdfunding marketing to smaller companies to bringing in that level of expertise that only a chief marketing officer can bring, but without the whole price tag where you don't have to hire someone full time. They've got the insights to really move your business forward and help you grow. Hey, Erik, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, I kind of gave away a little bit there about some of the background that you have, but maybe you could, before we get into even Hawke Media, just kind of give us a lay of the land. What's going on right now with marketing and with respect to trying to get eyeballs in this post-COVID kind of world where everybody's got Zoom fatigue and everything else? Talk to us
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. I mean, I think it's going back to how it was pre-COVID, and from a marketing standpoint, where people are out and about, as well as in front of their phones and everything. So, the nice thing is online purchases are still going to have a much higher mix of consumer spending. So 13% of people or 13% of consumer purchases were done online pre-COVID, and it went up to about 30% during COVID. So we're still going to see a lot higher online purchases, which means you can, because people are more used to purchasing online, the marketing to them actually is easier because you can kind of direct them right in versus hoping they come into a store, et cetera. So you have that benefit, but we're seeing it right now. The world's opening up. People are going out and about. It's summer break. Like, it's time to go see the world. And people are comparing their numbers to year over year numbers. And last year, everybody was stuck at home at this time. So we know that June, July, August, other than 2020, are notoriously tough months for consumer purchasing. And we're seeing that. I wouldn't say it's tough, is maybe even a little extreme. It's just a little slower. And so we're seeing that right now, where people are traveling and people are doing things again. And so when you're looking at it year over year, it might actually not look great because you raised your budgets and you thought you were going to, you started extrapolating and running projections based on what you did in 2020 in this anomaly of a time. And we're seeing that you're going to have to kind of get back to the basics again.
Fantastic. So with this whole piece about Hawke Media and outsourced, as a chief marketing officer, you've been able to help some tremendously large brands. I mean, Alibaba, Red Bull, Proactiv. I mean, names nobody's heard of, right? K-Swiss,
Yeah.
who wears those? Nobody, right?
Well, no one heard of them before they came out. Is the wish I could say, but no, they were big companies when they started with us too.
No, understood. Maybe talk to us a little bit about why Hawke Media is so attractive to some of these big, big brands. What do you bring to the table?
Yeah, it depends on the brand. There's a few different value propositions. One is just, thankfully, we have a really good team that does great work. And that has been in our ethos. And we've always brought in really good people and we have high expectations. And that's seen throughout our company. But we're also very flexible. So our mission statement is accessibility to great marketing for everyone. And so that flexibility resonates with large and small companies as well, because if I don't have to sign a 3-year contract with you, and when I need help, I can call you. And then if, I don't need as much help, I can back off with you. Like, that lack of forcing people to get married before they even date us. There's a lot of reasons that we basically have no barrier to entry. We have all the skill sets in the world and we're comparable with every other agency without making it so hard to work with us. And so the lack of friction combined with, a high level of aptitude has been able to get us a great reputation and frankly, keep the door open, because a lot of these companies give us a chance because they're like, oh, I'm committing to a month. Like, yeah, sure. And then we perform and they stick with us, for years. A lot of the companies you named have been with us for years.
Oh, and I love the fact that you use the word friction. I myself look through the friction lens with just about everything new that I do, right? Like, where's those potential points where people are going to go, no, not doing it. And you kind of kill an effort even before they want to get started. So love that you've done that. Now, with respect to tips and things, a lot of the members of our listenership here are smaller startups, somewhere around the 10, 20 range with respect to employees and what they have. And they're trying to get started with respect to their marketing efforts. They don't spend a lot of money on marketing. They just don't have the cycles for that. It's mostly focused pretty much on software development and the SaaS tech companies that I speak with.
Sure.
Could you give them a tip and say, if you're going to use your money and you're going to invest in a marketing effort, what should they do? Like, what's the one thing?
It really depends, but I'm a big fan of partnerships to get things off the ground, because if you can create a lot of channel partnerships and strategic partnerships where you're selling to the same customer as another company and then you start pushing each other, that third party validation really helps a lot. We look at marketing in three categories: awareness, nurturing, and trust. How do you gain awareness for your product or service, which doesn't always lead to a sale? That's where nurturing comes in, and actually like kind of once you have them aware of you, converting them to a sale. And then trust. 75% of people won't buy from a company they don't inherently trust, which in the beginning comes from third party validation. So when you think of those three pillars, awareness, nurturing, and trust, all three are covered when it comes to partnerships because they're creating new awareness to their audience for you. They're also creating validation through trust because usually those partners have customers that trust them and now they're recommending you. And frankly, a lot of people will just trust you because someone random recommended you. Like, it is funny how that works. That show How I Met Your Mother is a good example of this, where the two guys would go out and Barney would always say, "Have you met my friend Ted?" to random women at the bar. And it was a joke that like how well it worked. But the truth is that is human nature and it does work. If someone random comes up to you and introduces you to someone else, you may not have any clue who the first person was, but you kind of have that little extra trust of like, I guess I'm supposed to meet you. So same thing when it comes to partnerships. Even if you may not fully trust the first partner, their recommendation still means something, along with them creating awareness. And then a lot of times you can help each other kind of further in the funnel when you're trying to convince someone from like, who we are, to buying from us. You can have that partner reach out, you can do collaborative things, and all of this doesn't cost anything but time. So when you're talking about limited budgets, this is a very lucrative, a lot of times will generate your best clients. A lot of companies, it's a big part of their revenue stream. For us, we've got about 220 people and about 600 brands we work with, and partnerships is probably 40% of our business. So it's a big deal.
Now, you've just mentioned a couple of, really big statistics there with respect to the number of brands that you have been able to generate support for and build relationships with, north of 200 employees. That's a lot in a company that's really been around 7 years. That's incredible. But where do you go from here? I mean, that's already uber successful.
Well, it's funny. Well, I thank you. And I kind of look at the sky to limit. I mean, we have plenty of room to grow. We're working on expanding into other countries. We're expanding across the US. We haven't even scratched the surface on the, sort of addressable market of what we could reach. So, I mean, we've worked with 3,000 brands, and I think there's probably, there's like 5 million Shopify sites or something like that. Like, it's like the addressable markets we haven't even touched yet. And the cool thing is we've gotten this big on just a tiny sliver of the market. So we have a lot of ambition to keep going with it.
Oh, absolutely. Sky's the limit for sure. Now, if we roll things back, 7, 8 years ago when you were getting ready and getting set up, is there something that you look back on now and go, dang, if I had done that before, we'd have 5 million Shopify customers already on and be working with 10 million brands. Is there one thing that you can look back and say, I wish I would have done that differently?
Not a lot, because I don't think that growing faster in our business would have been responsible. Like, there's so many things that would have broken that I'm actually pretty happy. I would say the only thing is, and we were very vocal about this, 2018 and 19, we reinvested in sort of hypothetical growth, meaning like we tried to get ahead of growth and hire ahead of it and build infrastructure, assuming we were going to keep growing at the rate we were. And that put us really thin as far as margins and really limited us in reinvesting in places that we wanted to, because we were bloated in places we shouldn't have been. And so learned that lesson, but that was that we probably could have grown faster if it wasn't for being so tight, because we thought we were going to grow faster, ironically enough.
Well, it makes sense, right? You want to invest in that. That's just it, especially in today's hiring market. So you want to bring on the talent and start working like in anticipation of, but then you're bound to it, right?
So dangerous. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what if there's a global pandemic, right? Then, how do you prepare for these kinds of things, these perturbations?
Exactly.
Yeah. Bingo. So if we look and say, okay, so, that's pretty hard. You've learned some lessons there. If I asked you, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to do, whatever you're comfortable sharing personally or professionally, what do you want to tell the audience?
Hardest thing I've ever had to do. It was really that first couple of weeks of COVID, trying to strategize, what am I going to do if we lose 20, 40, 60, 80, or 100% of our revenue? And like being very real about the possibilities of like our company completely collapsing because of COVID, and running those scenarios and figuring out a plan, because it was my responsibility. And so did not sleep for, almost a week, probably trying to figure that out. Once I had the scenarios run, like I'm a pretty rational, logical driven person that like, we're going to do what we can. And if this happens, it happens. But it was not having a plan, because no one did, of what to do when that happened, and what now, like, what's the, like, because everyone was looking at me like, what are we going to do? And then once I developed my scenarios, we were better, but it took me a while and I wasn't caught off guard. And that was a very difficult, short period, but a very difficult period.
Indeed, I know many people who have gone through that, myself as well, right? We all have in some form, and it depends. When you've got the burden of responsibility as you do with a couple hundred folks and a lot of brands behind you, there's a lot of scenarios that aren't pretty, right? And you have to work through those, and you build these relationships with people on your team. They're not just numbers and hired hands. They become part of the family, right? The family business.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to give you some magic beans. You get to go back to your childhood, teenage years, whatever, even early development years. And you say, you know what? That was the moment I knew that this is what I wanted to do. Talk to me about that moment.
February 2021.
Okay.
No, listen, I've always enjoyed what I've done. I like working. I like building things, but the unusual answer is I got offered enough money for the company that my grandkids would be great. Like that, like it's generational wealth is kind of an understatement. Like the company's worth a lot. And I turned it down because I realized that I love this and that wasn't what I was doing it for. That I wasn't just doing it to have some big bank account at some point, but because I really wanted to build something big and impactful, and that I was on my way and I felt like I had, gotten the start of it. So I know a lot of people would probably answer I had a lot of great entrepreneurial experiences. I had an experience working at a health food store when I was 16, and the manager took credit for all my work. And so I never got a raise and said I hate working for people, and like have all those stories too. But I'd say the real big turning point for me was recently. And I think I feel I will look back on this for a long time, because I've always entertained offers to buy my business and I've always looked at them. I've always been, very hesitant to, but I felt the responsibility to always take the phone call. And that was, the point where I was like, I had talked to enough friends that have had big enough exits that all regret it. And I had realized that I don't want to retire. I like work, not meaning now, but maybe ever. I love running this and I like the idea of building something long-term and big. And I think I can do that without selling the business. And that was a great realization, because it was, again, that I realized that my motivation wasn't about, again, just padding my bank account, but about building this.
And you've got a unique perspective being on both sides of that equation as an investor and operator, given Hawke Ventures. So can you talk to us about that? Like when you are really engaging in these companies that are looking for pre-seed revenues, early stage revenues in consumer and tech, and saying, are you guys ready? Are you thinking about this? Talk to us a little bit about that conversation that you have with those founders.
Yeah. Everybody's different. Like, and it depends on the business. Like I have I'm going to make a crazy statement and say that I don't think digital and marketing and e-com are going anywhere. So I think my business probably has some longevity in it as a consultancy. But there are businesses that we invest in that probably, I don't even know if they have a shorter lifespan, but they need to scale faster, and bootstrapping is not going to work for a lot of businesses. And so they have to raise money. And so really a lot of the thesis around our venture fund was what are things that we wish we had and we could build, but since we can't, because whether it's we don't have the financing or we're not engineers, can we back some entrepreneurs and be a part of it, and then leverage Hawke Media to help them. And that's been the whole thesis around it. And so when we're vetting that and when we're looking at that, I don't have anything against other people that want to sell their businesses. I just realized for myself, I have the thing that I would buy if I had all the money in the world to buy something. Like I love running this business. I love having a lot of people. I love having this platform to build the fund, to build our capital arm, to build our events, to partner in brands, to do all the things that we're doing. And so, that's why that offer is going to be a really hard one to make for why I should give this to someone else. But for our portfolio companies, a lot of times that partner is actually what you need to be successful.
All right. Now you've been giving us a lot of tips. Let's turn things around. How can our audience help you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, our mission is accessibility to great marketing for everyone. And I was taught by the chief culture officer of Airbnb to create an improbable yet not impossible mission and goal for the company. And it is improbable that we will make great marketing accessible for everyone, but it's not impossible. And so that's the idea behind the business. And so when I look for help, I want intros to marketers that we can help. It's, whether we can work with them or we can provide them guidance. the more the merrier. You can go right to our site and we'll do free consultations for everyone, or find me on social. Always happy to loop in and see if we can help companies with their marketing, even if it's just giving some guidance again.
Oh, that's great. That's what it's all about, right? Trying to find ways to, help each other grow and do things baby steps, right? Some people, maybe they'll come to you now and say, oh, I need a bit of advice. Not ready to engage with Hawke Media yet, but X months, year down the road,
Yeah.
you never know, right? Things
And they,
change.
or they know somebody, or like we are, again, this is what's fun about knowing that I'm not like trying to flip this. They could come back in 10 years, or they could send me an intro in 10 years or 20 years. Like, it's like what goes around comes around when you have a long enough time horizon. And for us, it's, pretty long. So we're very comfortable just being a good citizen of the world.
Oh, I like that. We need more good citizens, Erik. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
All right. Last question. Our listeners going to want to peek into your closet and they're going to say, which pair of shoes in there best speaks to your personality?
Probably the ones I'm wearing right now, my Nike running shoes.
And why?
Comfortable, practical, and I like being active.
All right. Well, that pretty much sums it up. That's pretty easy. We get sneakers is a pretty common answer amongst the gals and the guys that we have on this podcast. We get a lot of boots answers too. There's a lot of that. But with California, I thought, well, there's a chance flip-flops, right? You never know. I had to ask.
Yep.
Okay, very good. And so thank you very much here to Erik Hawke of Hawke Media and Hawke Ventures for coming by our Grit Daily Like a Boss podcast today. Don't forget to subscribe and go check out the website and go see if there's opportunities to be able to engage with Hawke Media to maybe get a few pointers on how you can grow your business. Thanks, Erik.
Thank you.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?